welcome back. Today with us, we have Lior, Ben, Eddie, and Lucci. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today, we are talking about when we run into groups or companies or teams that we work with that might be anti-agile for many reasons. Maybe they had a scrum master or coach who was super micromanagey, or maybe they just had bad experiences, so they don't trust the agile practitioners out there. I know I have faced it in my own work. So we're here to talk about that, and how do you deal with it, and what has been your experience, and how do we get people to trust us again? So I'm going to throw it over to the group to talk about what your experience has been like with people who are just anti-agile.
I think I'll take that one, Alana. At least it's something that I've seen and something I've seen recently, and it's probably most easily categorized by the rolling of the eyes. Like, oh, we've got stand up, or it's time to do a retrospective, and it's a sigh and a roll of the eyes, and it makes me chuckle because you can see it a million miles away, but it's also actually not really that hard to get over. I mean, I've found that trying to disassociate terms. So a lot of people are anchored to these terms. So I try and say, instead of we're doing stand up, I'll say, right, let's work out what we're going to do today, or let's have a coordination meeting and just shift the conversation away from a retrospective or a stand up because the stigma is attached to the name. But also to clearly talk about why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of people just see it as, oh, a retrospective involves this, and this, and I don't want to go through those steps. Let's shift the conversation away from specific steps. And actually, I've had reasonably good traction with that, and people saying, wow, if I'd known if I'd known this was really what it was about, I would have been on board a long time ago. So I think there is the opportunity to shift the conversation there. I don't know what anyone else. I don't know anyone else's experience of that. Have you struggled, or do you find it easy?
I'm going to just chime in here because I've had this issue a lot in my experience, and it comes from I think teams that haven't had an understanding of what the purpose is of a lot of these, what we call meetings on the calendar. And I think one way that this group has talked about it is instead of seeing it as a meeting, talk about it as a working session, or try to pivot it towards something that seems like it's oriented towards a goal. There's an outcome. There are things that we should get out of this meeting. And it's not just checking the box that we all met for a stand-up or we all met for a retro. There's a reason behind each of these meetings on the calendar. And it does shift the conversation when people start to see it as this is something that we should be coming together as a team, as a working session or a collaborative effort. But it takes a little bit of time, though, I think, when people realize the benefit of changing that conversation around being a working session with a group. What about anyone else?
I think there's an interesting thing you guys brought up where you're kind of going away from the names of the meetings back to the meanings of the meetings and the purpose of them, and focusing on what's important. So these teams that are anti-agile or that roll their eyes at these buzzwords, they obviously must have made some kind of bad experience. Would you say, reflecting on what you said, that the bad experiences come from when other agilists or other implementations of agile have kind of lost sense of that meaning and like lose track of that purpose of the meaning itself?
I mean, I think so. It's got to be, there aren't many people who can disagree with what we are trying to achieve principally. Like, it's very hard to disagree that we should be building better quality more quickly, delighting our customers more. Like, it's very hard to disagree with that. So if it's, linking back to shared objectives, like this is what we want to achieve, right? That tends to kind of diffuse a lot of that misnomer, if you like.
I would agree that a lot of the criticism I hear of Agile is that it's pointless, right? The meetings are pointless, the stand-ups are pointless, retros are pointless. Nothing ever comes of it. It's just wasting time, right? So
yeah, I think the one meeting that I've heard over and over again that isn't as important as the others is the retro. And I'm going to give a real life example here. I was just joined a team, and right away they were like, we don't want to do the retros anymore. They're pointless. We don't get anything out of them. And I told the team, just give me 2 sprints. Give me 2 sprints and I'm going to change your mind. And the whole reason is because they've done retros before, the same format, what went well, what didn't go well, and how can we improve. And instead of doing the same format, I changed it up every sprint after. So we would do a free form discussion, or we would do the 5 questions. There's so many different types of retros, and I think Ben has a book on retros that you could talk about. But it's about just reframing what it is that we think this meeting is for. And after those 2 sprints, guess what? The retros were their favorite meetings because we got the most out of them, because we started having those meaningful conversations that you're supposed to have in the retros. So bringing it back to the purpose of what's a retro is to improve as a team. It's not just the 3 questions. It's how do we get better as a team? And if that's asking 3 questions, 20 questions, or just having an open conversation, I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. And I think it's helpful when you reframe what the purposes of a meeting and let the team decide what's valuable coming out of that.
I was thinking that one of the things that for me is important, even though I do not have experience with this, is like having this conversation, no? Why? What is happening? What was your experience that maybe now you are not, or you are skeptical about Agile, or that you don't trust, or you don't like this, the retro, for instance. Once you have that, but that's what you've said, Alana, that you heard that these people are telling me this and this, and that for me was a great idea that you had, that is reframing. It's not like changing, no, the methodology is reframing depending on the group, depending on the type of personalities the people have. Maybe some people are more task-oriented, they like numbers, others need, like, we really need, like, having clear the plan, what we are going to do. They need more energy, a boost of energy. I don't know, but I think that the first thing is to have this conversation. Okay, let's talk about it. What's happening? And let's let me like one opportunity. I'm going to see what's going to happen with you.
I love that, because the first thing I always ask teams when they don't think something is useful, I ask why, and figure out, do they think it's a waste of time? They don't get anything out of it. Why is that? Is that the team members are working in silos? So when they do stand up, actually none of what they're sharing is important for the other team members. What is actually going on? And I think getting to the heart of that, and then reminding ourselves, even people who are aware of this, to check in, are these meetings still valuable? What can I do to make it more valuable? Are we aware of what the purpose is and the goal of these meetings that we have? Because it's easy to get into that pattern of just autopilot, and then we forget that there's a reason why we're meeting. So with that, is there anything else, any other last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
I was just going to try and tie it back just to get another buzzword in there. It's really important as well to remember that it's a servant leadership position, right? So we've talked a lot about how we need to understand the needs of the team, understand the goals of the team, tie things back to what actually helps them, and put the team in the forefront, right? So I think it's important that when we talk about, servant leadership, that this is something where it directly is a really important factor in kind of bringing back that feeling.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Eddie. I think sometimes we come into this, and you might be an Agile coach and certified with every certificate under the sun, but if you don't remember that you're there to serve the team, you will forget, because you're just going to try to check all the Agile boxes instead of realizing your team has needs that isn't just checking those off. So yeah. This was a great conversation. Thank you, everyone. Lior, Lucci, Eddie, Ben, thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, or if you feel like you still just don't trust Agile, let us know why in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and we will see you for the next one.